the law of immortality. There are many legendary figures and beings in Hindu mythology who are believed to possess some form of immortality or longevity. The nature of immortality attributed to these legendary figures varies. Some are believed to possess physical immortality, meaning they do not age or die in the conventional sense. Others are said to exist on subtle planes of reality, maintaining a form of spiritual or celestial immortality. While they may not inhabit the physical realm like ordinary beings, they are believed to remain in close contact with the earth, intervening in worldly affairs and guiding devotees when needed. It is believed that they achieved such perfection precisely thanks to devotion, righteousness, and diligent practices of meditation and yoga. The Siddha tradition, particularly prominent in South India, is a rich spiritual and medical system that combines profound mystical insights with practical approaches to health and longevity. This tradition is deeply rooted in the teachings and practices of the Siddhars, legendary figures who are believed to have attained extraordinary spiritual enlightenment, miraculous powers, and remarkable longevity through rigorous spiritual disciplines, including Kaya Kalpa. As a rule, they talk about 18 Siddhars are revered figures in the Tamil Siddhar and Kaya Kalpa tradition, which is an ancient system of medicine and spirituality, but there are also their successors and predecessors. Siddhar Dhanvantari is a revered figure in Hindu mythology and Siddha medicine, often considered the divine physician and an avatar of Lord Vishnu. According to the legend we discussed in Chapter 1, he emerged from the churning of the ocean, Samudra Manthan, holding a pot of Amrita, the nectar of immortality. Dhanvantari is traditionally regarded as the god of Ayurveda, the ancient Indian system of medicine. Texts attributed to Dhanvantari include detailed descriptions of medicinal plants, surgical techniques, and treatments for various ailments. Siddha medicine shares many principles with Ayurveda, and Dhanvantari's contributions are seen as foundational to both systems. Dhanvantari is typically depicted with 4 hands, holding a pot of Amrita, medicinal herbs, and a conch, symbolizing his divine origin and medical prowess. Agastya, Agathyar, is one of the most revered Siddhars, known for his contributions to Tamil literature, medicine, and spirituality. Agastya is revered in Tamil Hindu traditions as the first Siddhar, a master who perfected his understanding of both the natural and spiritual realms. He is regarded in some traditions to be a Chiranjeevi, one of the immortals. Agastya is considered the father of Siddha medicine, which includes practices aimed at prolonging life and even achieving physical immortality. These processes often involve complex alchemical techniques for preparing elixirs and a deep understanding of natural and cosmic laws. Among the many Siddhars, Patanjali, the author of the Yoga Sutras, is revered for his significant contributions to yoga. The Yoga Sutras outline the 8 limbs of yoga, providing a comprehensive guide to spiritual practice and self-realization. Gorakhnath, also known as Gorakshanath or Korakkar Siddhar, is a prominent figure in the Nath tradition of Hinduism and the Siddha tradition of Tamil Nadu. He is one of the 18 Siddhars, mystics who attained supernatural powers, Siddhis, through their intense spiritual practices and alchemical knowledge. The texts attributed to Gorakhnath, such as the Goraksha Samhita and Goraksha Shataka, contain detailed instructions on yogic practices, including asanas, pranayama, mudras, and meditation techniques. These texts also discuss the philosophy of yoga and the path to spiritual liberation. Gorakhnath is considered a direct disciple of one of the 18 Siddhars, Matsyendranatha, Machamuni, although they lived hundreds of years apart. It is no coincidence that the Siddhars are considered to have achieved longevity and are often even believed to have attained a state of immortality. Matsyendranatha is credited with many texts on Hatha Yoga, which emphasize physical postures, asanas, breath control, pranayama, and energy channeling techniques, mudras and bandhas, to prepare the body and mind for higher spiritual practices. Tirumular is a highly revered saint, yogi, and poet in the Tamil Siddha tradition, known for his profound contributions to spirituality, yoga, and Tamil literature. Tirumular's life is shrouded in legend and mystical accounts. One of the most famous legends about Tirumular involves his mystical experience in a village where a cowherd named Mulan died suddenly. Out of compassion for the cows left without their herdsman, Tirumular entered the body of the deceased Mulan through his yogic powers to guide the cows back home. After fulfilling this duty, he intended to leave Mulan's body, but he received a divine command to remain in it and spread spiritual wisdom. He is best known for the Tirumandiram, a classic text that provides deep insights into yoga, philosophy, and spiritual practices. This work is considered one of the key texts in the Saiva Siddhanta tradition and Tamil literature. Tirumular and other Siddhars are known for their knowledge of alchemy, which includes the preparation of elixirs and medicines designed to promote longevity and vitality. Siddhars like Tirumular advocated for a lifestyle that integrates physical health, mental clarity, and spiritual purity. This holistic approach is essential for achieving the goals of Kaya Kalpa, which seeks to harmonize the physical and spiritual aspects of life. Kaya Kalpa is a traditional rejuvenation practice have ancient origins in India, particularly within the Siddha and Ayurvedic traditions. It is believed to promote longevity and vitality by rejuvenating the body and mind through a combination of dietary practices, herbal treatments, physical exercises, and spiritual disciplines. Kaya Kalpa translates to body rejuvenation. It aims to enhance overall health, vitality, and longevity by revitalizing the body's tissues and systems. These systems emphasize the balance of bodily humors, doshas, proper digestion, agni, and the use of specific rejuvenating herbs and therapies. The primary goal of Kaya Kalpa practices is not just physical longevity, but also mental clarity, emotional balance, and spiritual growth. It is believed that by harmonizing the body, mind, and spirit, individuals can achieve a state of optimal health and longevity. Overall, Kaya Kalpa represents a comprehensive approach to rejuvenation and longevity that includes diets, herbal treatments, yoga, meditation and techniques to calm the mind, pranayama, breathing exercises, and other physical practices aimed at improving circulation, flexibility, and overall health. Shriman Tapasviji Maharaj, an Indian practitioner of Kaya Kalpa, lived for 186 years, 1770-1956, as officially recorded in his principality's documents. Legend has it that Tapasviji encountered a 5,000-year-old Mahatma who claimed to have been born in Ayodhya during Sri Krishna's era. When Tapasviji asked about the Mahatma's longevity, he revealed his secret and shared a lot of Kaya Kalpa knowledge. Consuming cow's milk and herbs, particularly a rare creeper known as somalata. One of the most hidden treasures of Kaya Kalpa is that of soma or amrita, a divine drink. It is sacred because of its profound effect and mysterious because it cannot be experienced without the proper consciousness. In the ancient Vedic scriptures, it appears that soma is the substance that is offered to the gods. However, its description is couched in mystery, and no clear information is given on how to manufacture soma. In modern times, Kaya Kalpa practices continue to be preserved and practiced by traditional healers, Vaidyas, and practitioners of Ayurveda and Siddha medicine. It is believed that the ancient yogis of some traditions argued that a person has a predetermined number of heartbeats and breaths in their lifetime. They believed that by controlling and slowing down the heartbeat and breath, one can extend their lifespan and achieve greater health and longevity. The importance of breathing for maintaining physical life is undeniable. With the first inhalation, our life begins, and with the last exhalation, it ends. In yoga, pranayama, breath control, is a key practice. By controlling the breath, practitioners believe they can influence their vital energy, prana, and thereby enhance their physical and mental well-being. Some advanced yogis are reputed to have the ability to slow down or even temporarily stop their heartbeat through deep meditation and pranayama. The Siddhar tradition has a close connection with Saiva Siddhanta, the tradition of devotion to Lord Shiva. However, while Saiva Siddhanta is more focused on ritual worship, ethical living, and devotion, the Siddhar tradition emphasizes esoteric practices, including the use of herbs, alchemy, and yoga for spiritual and physical transformation. At the same time, in the Siddhar tradition, Shiva is revered as the supreme deity, and devotion to him is a necessary component of transformation. The 18 Siddhars, who are central figures in this tradition, often venerate Shiva and describe him as the ultimate source of all knowledge and power. Shiva is not only worshipped as a personal god, but also revered as the ultimate reality, representing the universal consciousness, Paramashiva, that transcends all dualities. The Siddhars, through their mystical practices, aim to realize the divine essence within themselves, often equating their spiritual attainment with union with Shiva. They composed numerous works, including hymns, poems, and medical treatises, many of which glorify Shiva and express deep devotion to him. Thus, the Siddhar tradition is strongly rooted in Shaiva philosophy and devotion, with Shiva being central to their spiritual worldview. Bhakti, or devotion, is a vital component that not only guides practitioners in their spiritual practices, but also serves as a catalyst for the inner alchemy that transforms the body and mind. It facilitates the realization of the self's divine nature, aiding in the journey toward liberation and the realization of immortality. Kaya Siddhi is a concept in Hindu and yogic traditions that refers to the attainment of extraordinary abilities or perfection of the body through advanced spiritual practices. The term kaya means body, and siddhi means perfection or supernatural power. Thus, kaya siddhi encompasses the idea of achieving mastery over the physical form, often resulting in remarkable capabilities and extended longevity, or according to legends, even physical immortality. The concept of Kaya Siddhi has its roots in ancient yogic and tantric texts. It is believed that Kaya Siddhi is achieved through the practice of Kaya Sadhana, which in principle is synonymous with Hatha Yoga. Kaya Sadhana is a practice aimed at realizing the identity of one's human body, Vyashti Pinda, with the cosmic body of Shiva, Samashti Pinda, as well as the unity of Atman, Paramatman, and Jivatman. In Kaya Sadhana, enlightenment is achieved not only at the level of the mind, but also at the level of the body, because all tattvas are perceived as manifestations of Shiva consciousness. Kaya Siddhi is often associated with extraordinary physical abilities, the ability to transcend the normal limitations of aging and disease, resulting in an extended or immortal lifespan, resistance to physical harm or disease, the ability to change the body's form or size at will, the ability to defy gravity, enhanced physical capabilities beyond ordinary human limits. Kaya Siddhi is often associated with the 8 Siddhis, Ashta Siddhi, Anima, Mahima, Garima, Laghima, Prapti, Prakamya, Isitva, and Vasitva. However, the attainment of such powers is considered secondary to the ultimate goal of moksha. liberation from the cycle of birth and death. In many traditions, Kaya Siddhi is seen as a natural byproduct of spiritual advancement rather than an end in itself. Numerous stories and legends in Hindu mythology and yogic lore feature sages and yogis who achieved Kaya Siddhi. The legendary immortal yogi Mahavatar Babaji is often depicted as having mastered Kaya Siddhi, maintaining a youthful and radiant body despite living for centuries. His life and deeds are primarily known through the accounts of his disciples and various spiritual texts. Mahavatar Babaji is considered an eternal yogi who transcends time and space. The term Mahavatar means great incarnation, indicating his status as a divine being. He is believed to have a physical body that defies the typical processes of aging and death. Babaji first gained widespread recognition in the West through Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi. In this book, Yogananda describes Babaji as a Himalayan master who has lived for centuries, appearing and disappearing at will, and guiding many prominent spiritual leaders, including Yogananda's own lineage. Babaji is believed to have engaged in severe ascetic practices, dedicating his life to deep meditation and austerities. These practices purify the body and mind, leading to extraordinary spiritual powers. Babaji is a master of various forms of yoga, including Hatha Yoga, Kriya Yoga, and Raja Yoga. His mastery over these disciplines enabled him to control his physical form and transcend ordinary limitations. Babaji's powers are often attributed to divine grace and his direct connection with the cosmic consciousness. His role as a spiritual guide suggests that his immortality and abilities are gifts from the divine, intended to help humanity. Babaji is known to appear and disappear at will, manifesting in different places and times to guide and instruct his disciples. This ability suggests his mastery over physical laws. Babaji's disciples include prominent spiritual figures like Lahiri Mahasaya, Yukteswar Giri, and Paramahansa Yogananda. His teachings and blessings have been instrumental in spreading the practice of Kriya Yoga and other spiritual disciplines. Some legends claim that Babaji met with Adi Shankaracharya, the great philosopher and theologian, 8th century, suggesting that Babaji has been guiding spiritual leaders for over a millennium. Babaji is said to possess extraordinary healing abilities. Numerous accounts detail how he has healed the sick and revived the dead, showcasing his control over life and death. Mahavatar Babaji stands as a symbol of ultimate spiritual achievement, exemplifying the principles of Kaya Siddhi. His life and legends inspire countless devotees to pursue their spiritual goals with dedication and faith. Through intense practice, divine grace, and unwavering devotion, Babaji has transcended the limitations of the physical body, embodying the ideal of immortality and spiritual perfection. Sometimes in some traditions, Mahavatar Babaji is associated with the historical figure Gorakhnath. We have already mentioned him as Tamil Siddhar, but there is no exact confirmation of this. In turn, Gorakhnath is a legendary figure in Hinduism, particularly in the Nath tradition, which is a sect of Shaivism. He is revered as a yogi and saint, and is often credited with founding the Nath sect alongside his guru, Matsyendranatha. Gorakhnath is known for his teachings on Hatha Yoga, spiritual discipline, and the pursuit of enlightenment. His teachings are collected in various texts attributed to him, including the Goraksha Samhita, Goraksha Gita, and Siddha Siddhanta Padati. Siddha Siddhanta Padati, a Hatha Yoga text, is a remarkable philosophical work by Gorakhnath. He postulates that the Supreme Spirit, which exists beyond time and space, manifests as an expanded universe comprising limitless orders of discrete bodies and the abiding soul. The text interprets various yogic philosophical aspects to illustrate how to transform the physical body into a spiritualized state to achieve Kaya Siddhi, longevity, or immortality. There are innumerable legends about Guru Gorakhnath. He is mentioned in the Puranas and other scriptures. It is believed that he was born around the 11th to 12th century CE, but there are both earlier and later references to him. He is mentioned in reference to Adi Shankaracharya, who lived in the 8th century, and he is also associated with Kabir in the 15th century. It is widely believed that Sri Gorakhnath has been monitoring the welfare of humanity for thousands of years, and from time to time appears and intervenes in the course of events. Gorakhnath is often called an immortal yogi who achieved physical immortality through mastery of yoga and spiritual practices. Gorakshanatha and other great yogis are respected by Naths as realized Kaya Siddhi and attained immortality. This concept of immortality in the Nath tradition is not only about eternal physical existence, but also about achieving a state of eternal spiritual awareness and liberation. Gorakhnath is also counted among the 9 Naths and the 84 Mahasiddhas. The 9 Naths and the 84 Mahasiddhas are significant figures in Indian and Tibetan spiritual traditions, particularly within the Nath tradition and Vajrayana Buddhism. It is stated that the 9 Naths and the 84 Mahasiddhas are all human forms created as yogic manifestations to spread the message of yoga and meditation to the world. The 9 Naths are considered the founding saints of the Nath tradition, a Shaivite ascetic order. The 9 Naths are often associated with extraordinary spiritual powers and longevity, which sometimes leads to the perception of their immortality. However, the concept of immortality in their context often refers more to spiritual realization and transcendence rather than literal physical immortality. The unusual appearances of Gorakhnath in different places and at different times may also indicate physical immortality or the ability to manifest oneself physically. The 84 Mahasiddhas are legendary tantric practitioners in Vajrayana Buddhism who are believed to have achieved great spiritual attainments and supernatural powers, Siddhas, through their practice of Tantra. Tilopa and Naropa, 2 Mahasiddhas, are particularly noted for their profound tantric practices and teachings, which are said to grant the practitioner control over life and death. Tilopa is credited with receiving direct transmissions of tantric teachings from various celestial and human masters. Tilopa emphasized direct experiential transmission of knowledge from master to disciple, bypassing intellectual understanding and directly impacting the disciple's spiritual realization. Mahamudra meditation, the Great Seal, is a key practice that involves recognizing the nature of the mind, which is seen as inherently pure and luminous. Realizing the nature of the mind leads to liberation from samsara and the cycle of death and rebirth. His teachings form the basis of the 6 yogas of Naropa, which were systematized by his disciple Naropa. A disciple of Tilopa, Naropa further developed and systematized the 6 yogas, which include techniques such as Tummo, inner heat, Gyulu, illusory body, Milam, dream yoga, Osel, clear light, Phawa, consciousness transference, and Bardo, intermediate state. Tummo, inner heat practice involves generating inner heat and purifies the nadis, energy channels, and helps in realizing the innate, blissful nature of mind. Gyulu, illusory body, practice involves recognizing the illusory nature of all phenomena, including the body. By realizing that the body is like a dream or an illusion, practitioners can overcome fear of death and achieve liberation from physical constraints. Milam, dream yoga, teaches practitioners to maintain awareness during dreams. Mastery of dream yoga is believed to lead to control over the bardo, intermediate state, between death and rebirth. Ozal, clear light. This practice involves recognizing and maintaining awareness of the clear light nature of mind, especially during the process of dying. It is believed that by recognizing the clear light at the moment of death, practitioners can achieve liberation. Phawa, consciousness transference, is a technique for transferring consciousness at the moment of death to a pure realm or into a prepared receptacle, effectively ensuring a favorable rebirth or liberation. Bardo, intermediate state practices, involve training to maintain awareness and control during the intermediate state between death and rebirth. Mastery of Bardo practices helps in navigating this state skillfully, leading to liberation or a favorable rebirth. Thus, Tilopa and Naropa's teachings and practices provide a comprehensive path for overcoming the limitations of physical existence, including death. The Mahasiddhas are believed to have attained a level of spiritual enlightenment that allows them to transcend the cycle of birth and death, samsara. The lives of the Mahasiddhas are filled with stories of miraculous events and extraordinary achievements. These legends often highlight their ability to defy physical limitations and achieve a state of timeless spiritual existence. While the legends of the 9 Naths and the 84 Mahasiddhas often describe them as possessing extraordinary longevity and miraculous abilities, their immortality is generally understood in a spiritual context. It refers to their attainment of a state of consciousness that transcends the ordinary cycle of life and death, granting them a timeless presence in the spiritual traditions they help to shape. Death-overcoming practices are common in Vajrayana Buddhism, such as the above-mentioned Phawa, transference of consciousness, and Bardo, intermediate state. The Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, also uses the concept of Bardo, which refers to the intermediate state between death and rebirth. The Bardo Thodol focuses on guiding the dead through the after-death states, while Mahamudra meditation uses the concept of Bardo to deepen awareness and realization in all transitional experiences of life and meditation. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is traditionally attributed to Padmasambhava, also known as Guru Rinpoche, an 8th century Buddhist master. It is believed that Padmasambhava concealed the text as a terma, a hidden treasure, to be discovered by a future tertön, treasure revealer. The text was later discovered by Karma Lingpa in the 14th century. The Bardo Thodol, or Tibetan Book of the Dead, is a guide for the dead and dying, providing instructions on navigating the intermediate state, Bardo, between death and rebirth. The text is often read aloud to the deceased to guide their consciousness through the stages of the Bardo. It includes detailed visualizations and mantras to help the deceased recognize the nature of mind and avoid negative rebirths. The book describes different bardos, such as the Chikai Bardo, moment of death, Chonyid Bardo, experiences of reality, and Sidpa Bardo, rebirth process. The ultimate aim in many Tibetan Buddhist practices, including those described in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, is to attain liberation from the cycle of samsara, which can be seen as a form of achieving a kind of spiritual immortality. Also known as Tantric Buddhism or the Diamond Vehicle, Vajrayana is a major branch of Buddhism that emphasizes esoteric practices, rituals, and the use of mantras, mudras, hand gestures, and mandalas to achieve enlightenment. Dzogchen is closely related to the traditions of Vajrayana Buddhism. Dzogchen, meaning great perfection, is a set of advanced spiritual teachings and practices within Vajrayana, particularly prominent in the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism. Dzogchen teachings emphasizes direct realization of the mind's innate purity and perfection, often bypassing the gradual stages of practice found in other Vajrayana teachings. It aims for immediate recognition of the nature of mind, Rigpa. The ultimate goal of Dzogchen practice is the realization and stabilization of Rigpa, which is often translated as pure awareness or pristine awareness. Rigpa refers to the innate, luminous, and self-aware nature of mind, free from all conceptualization and dualistic perceptions. In Dzogchen, realizing Rigpa is synonymous with achieving enlightenment or Buddhahood. Before engaging in Dzogchen, practitioners often complete preliminary practices, nyondro, to purify the mind and accumulate merit. The initial step in Dzogchen is the introduction to the nature of mind, Rigpa, the fundamental awareness that is the ground of all experience. This introduction is usually given by a qualified Dzogchen master who helps the student directly glimpse the nature of mind. Tresho, cutting through solidity, involves recognizing and resting in the natural state of Rigpa. The practice focuses on directly seeing through the illusory nature of thoughts and emotions, cutting through the solidity of conventional reality. Togal, leap over, is an advanced practice that involves working with the subtle body and visionary experiences. It builds on the foundation of Tresho, using specific postures, gazes, and visualizations to enhance the realization of the nature of mind. In Dzogchen, the three wisdoms of Rigpa are Kadag, primordial purity, Lhun Grub, spontaneous presence, and Thagzarja, compassionate energy. Tresho practice involves recognizing the empty nature of the mind, Kadag, while Togal facilitates the spontaneous display of the nature of reality, Alhun Grub, and the manifestation of compassionate activity, Thagzarja. In the highest stages, practitioners aim to fully integrate their realization into every aspect of life, ultimately achieving the rainbow body, a state where the physical body dissolves into light at the time of death. This attainment is considered a sign of complete realization in Dzogchen. The rainbow body is a profound and advanced spiritual phenomenon within the Dzogchen tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. It represents the culmination of intensive spiritual practice and the realization of the true nature of reality. The body, which is typically subject to decay and death, transforms into light, indicating the practitioner's liberation from the cycle of samsara. The process of physical body dissolution can result in the body shrinking and eventually disappearing, leaving behind only hair, nails, and some relics. The phenomenon is named after the appearance of rainbow-like lights, which are said to manifest during the dissolution process. The attainment of the rainbow body symbolizes a state of spiritual immortality, where the practitioner's essence transcends the constraints of physical existence, manifesting in a non-material body of light, Sambhogakaya, with the ability to exist and abide anywhere and at any time. There is another interesting practice in Vajrayana Buddhism called chad, which means cutting through. It involves confronting and transcending one's ego, fears, and attachments, including the fear of death, through a series of visualizations and rituals. Chad was developed by the 11th century Tibetan yogini Machig Labdrön, who combined Indian Buddhist teachings with indigenous Tibetan shamanistic elements. The practice is influenced by the Prajnaparamita, perfection of wisdom, sutras, and the concept of emptiness, shunyata. Practitioners visualize offering their own body as a feast to demons, deities, and spirits, symbolizing the ultimate act of non-attachment and generosity. By offering oneself in visualization, the practitioner aims to cut through the ego and attachments that bind them to samsara. Central to the practice of chad is the female tantric deity, the Dakini Vajrayogini, who is the focus of visualization during meditation. Confronting terrifying images and scenarios helps practitioners overcome deep-seated fears and mental obstacles. The practice emphasizes realizing the emptiness, shunyata, of the self and all phenomena. By visualizing the offering of one's own body and experiences as a feast to spirits and deities, practitioners confront and transform their deepest fears. This radical practice helps overcome attachment and ego clinging, leading to the realization of one's true nature as an eternal, non-dual being, and thereby liberates one from attachments and fears, including the fear of death. The Siddhi is a significant and influential text within the Vajrayana, Tantric Buddhist tradition, composed around the 11th century Common Era. The authorship of the text is attributed to the yogi Avadhutakandra Madhavakandra, a prominent figure known for his mastery of esoteric practices. This Sanskrit text, whose title translates to The Attainment of Immortality, explores various practices and principles aimed at achieving physical and spiritual longevity. The Siddhi elaborates on the structure and function of the yogic body, detailing its fundamental components. It describes the body as being centered around the primary channel, with a moon positioned at the top releasing a life-giving nectar, bindu, and a sun at the base that consumes this nectar. The ultimate aim of yoga is the merging of the sun and moon. Additionally, yoga is characterized as the union of the two principal breaths, prana and apana. The work describes the role of bindu in the yogic body, and how to control it using the Mahamudra so as to achieve immortality, amarta. Controlling bindu necessitates breath regulation, which in turn requires mastery of the mind. The Siddhi outlines specific yoga practices. Mahamudra, known as the Great Seal, along with Mahabandha, the Great Lock, and the unique gesture Mahaveda specific to the Siddhi, work to retain the bindu or lunar nectar. This retention empowers the yogi to control the body, speech, and mind, ultimately preventing death. Practitioners are advised to perform these techniques every 3 hours, which, although initially exhausting, will eventually fortify the body and eliminate diseases and other disturbances. These disturbances originate from Prakriti, nature, and manifest as the 3 dosas, qualities causing disease, and the 3 gunas, fundamental qualities of objects. The Siddhi categorizes the stages of yoga practice into 4 phases: Arambha, Gata, Parakaya, and Nispati. The 4 states of yoga are a generally accepted concept in Hatha yoga. These stages outline the practitioner's progression from the initial stages of practice to final realization. Arambha, beginning stage. Gata, pot stage, where the pot symbolizing the body as a vessel. Parakaya, familiarity stage, and Nispati, culmination stage, which signifies the culmination or perfection of yoga practice. At this stage, the practice culminates in states of samadhi, or meditative absorption, and jivan mukti, or living liberation. Through the practice, the imperfections of the body, breath, and mind are surmounted, enabling the yogi to achieve spiritual liberation. This can be seen as achieving a form of spiritual immortality, as the practitioner realizes their true nature as an immortal, formless essence. The Siddhi employs alchemical metaphors from Indian tradition to illustrate the transformative power of yoga, likening it to the processes of turning base metals into gold, as a metaphor for achieving immortality. According to the Siddhi, Hatha yoga practices help in conserving the vital essence, bindu, in the head, thereby extending life. Techniques involving breath control aim to channel energy through the central pathways of the subtle body, reversing the descent of bindu and enhancing longevity. Bindu is here identified with dripping amrita and semen. In yogic traditions, the ultimate goal goes beyond physical transformation and includes achieving a state of union with a higher consciousness or divine essence. The Amrita Siddhi text often uses alchemical and yogic metaphors to describe complex metaphysical ideas, and the fusion of the sun, Surya, and the moon, Chandra, can be understood as a symbolic representation of the union of Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti represents nature, matter, and the phenomenal world. It is the principle of change and transformation and is associated with the feminine aspect of creation, often linked to energy or Shakti. Purusha represents pure consciousness, the unchanging, eternal reality. It is often associated with the masculine principle and is seen as the witness or observer of Prakriti's activities. In the yogic and philosophical traditions of India, particularly in Samkhya and Yoga, the union of Prakriti and Purusha is a central theme. This union is the realization of the underlying unity of existence. It represents the transcendence of duality and the realization of the non-dual nature of reality, often described as liberation, moksha, or enlightenment, bodhi. While the Amrita Siddhi focuses primarily on the technical aspects of yogic practice and the alchemical transformation of the body, it does make mention of Sadashiva, connecting the text to Shaivite Tantric traditions, although the text is considered to belong to the tradition of Tantric Buddhism. The reference to Sadashiva suggests an acknowledgement of a divine figure or principle, thereby incorporating a personalized aspect of the divine. Although the text may not extensively discuss God in a theistic sense, the realization of non-duality and the attainment of spiritual perfection described in the text can be understood as achieving a state of oneness with a supreme reality, with Sadashiva serving as a representation of this higher state. Sadashiva is a revered deity in Shaiva traditions, representing a transcendent, supreme, all-encompassing aspect of Shiva, often associated with the highest level of consciousness and purity. In the Indian philosophical and yogic context, such higher states are often associated with realizing one's unity with the ultimate reality, which can be understood as Brahman in Vedantic terms, the universal Buddha nature, and the experience of shunyata, emptiness, in Buddhism, or Sadashiva in Shaiva traditions. In India, alchemy, Rasayana, has a rich history intertwined with Ayurveda and Tantra, focusing on the transformation of both substances and the self. It includes the idea of preparing an elixir of immortality, Amrita, and achieving physical longevity or spiritual enlightenment. In early Indian texts, such as those on Hatha Yoga and Tantric practices, there is frequent use of alchemical language and symbolism. For example, these texts often describe the transformation of bodily fluids and energies as part of the yogic process of achieving higher states of consciousness or spiritual enlightenment. Terms like soma, amrita, nectar of immortality, and bindu, drops or essence, are commonly used, metaphorically relating to spiritual or divine essences. Alchemical processes, such as the transformation of mercury and other substances, were believed to mirror the inner transformation of the practitioner, including the sublimation of lower energies into higher spiritual states. The goal of alchemy, often the search for immortality or an elixir, appears as a universal human quest found in various traditions. Both Indian and European alchemy share this mystical pursuit, though expressed in different cultural languages and symbols. The search for immortality or an elixir is a recurring theme, demonstrating a shared human desire for understanding and mastery over the mysteries of life and death.